Hello and welcome to another episode of GRIDwrap, and today I'm very excited to have here SRH Magic and Nissa Rule of the Pandorian Hub Grid. Hello Nissa and Scott, how are you?
Hello.
Hello, doing great.
And of course we've got our regular guest here, Tessa Harrington of Spot on 3D. Hi Tessa.
Hi.
Hi. And we're here in our fab new set on at Metaverse Island, the Metaverse Island archipelago on the Somnolenta Sea. So we're feeling rather expansive and airy and rather beautiful, actually. Now, coming to Scott and Nissa, am I allowed to say who you are in
Sure.
RL?
Oh, sure.
That's okay. Okay. So we've got Amy Warnaker.
Yes, ma'am.
And Dr. Scott Harmon, is it Harmon?
Holman.
Here, and you're from Purdue University, am I?
That's correct.
Yeah, so I haven't quite got it.
Purdue.
Purdue. I'm sorry.
Just like the chicken.
I'm
2 hours
what?
south of Chicago, for those who don't know.
There's a chicken called Purdue?
No, there is a chicken company called Purdue, and we do get a lot of chicken jokes.
Well,
Learn something new every day.
Yeah, the very youngest member of our audience tonight found, yes, exactly, found that terribly funny, and I agree with you because I know nothing of I don't even
Purdue.
Purdue chickens.
Kind of Frenchy.
Purdue. Right.
Purdue.
Purdue. Never mind.
There you go. That's Italian now.
Yeah, put a little purr in there.
And this is going to be the best of it because I've now got to talk about Avatar. Avatar the movie, that is, right? And oh, adorable.
I'm sorry, that's my daughter.
We like adorable little laughters. So I need to talk about Avatar the movie. I'm going to wonder why Avatar the movie has got anything to do with Purdue professors in the real world. And perhaps, Scott, I'd like to come to you first.
Sure.
Would you like to tell us, how did you get into Second Life with the university, and what has Avatar got to do with anything?
Well, my background is in human resource development, and particularly the application of technology to training and training-related functions. So long ago, when I was doing my doctoral training at Texas A&M, I would have loved to have experimented and done more research in 3D virtual worlds, but the technology really wasn't ready for it then. So as things like Second Life have come on, I've been exploring ways to use Second Life in virtual worlds in the training and development and human resource development fields. So about 3 years ago, I started to actively really research Second Life in particular. And our university has an island, but Ms. Warnick and I met and basically agreed to start a business that we would follow up and do consulting and learn how to consult and bring about training solutions based upon the 3D platforms. And that kind of led to our own sim and our own business.
So is it affiliated to the university when you say it's your own sim and your own business?
We manage the Purdue sim.
Yeah.
We also have our own sim, but I'll let Amy.
Now I'm losing people on
Yep.
Skype here, so it's clicking a bit. Something seems to be going down somewhere. Tessa, let me come to you until Nissa and Scott have got their Skype settled.
Okay.
Tell me, how did you come across Nissa and Scott?
Well, they were Enigma introduced us, and from the Rockcliffe University, and we started talking. And he thought we had a lot of shared interests together, and because we really believe strongly in using role play and simulations, and also this kind of endeavor. I think what they're doing is really quite unique. What their goal is going to be to use your typical them all in a virtual environment that's centered around a specific community to teach economics and marketing skills to their students. And they're just getting started, but I think when they get to the point where it's, fully implemented, it'll be quite an eye-opener for students to learn, because it is really very much like running a business when you do this, and having them involved and working with users that are there strictly for recreational purposes. It's not a canned environment. It's real, and these people are spending real money on content. So I think it's going to be a phenomenal source of education that just can't possibly be done in real life without, a lot more hassles, a lot more money, a lot more time. So I'm really encouraged by their program, and that's one of the reasons why I thought they were interesting and wanted to bring them on the show.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yep.
Okay. One of the things I was getting to is that every semester for about the last 2 years, we've brought 600 students into Second Life.
600 students every semester. Now, that's massive, isn't it? And now Linden Labs are looking a bit of a gift horse in the mouth here, aren't they? Because they've actually gone back on it a little bit, but basically recently they've taken away the discount that was allowable to educational and non-profit organisations recently. Has that affected you at all, or affected your plans?
We do have some concerns about the long-term viability of our ability to sustain the Purdue University SIM. Purdue has had a lot of cutbacks, as other institutions are. What I have heard recently is that Linden Labs may be willing to extend it for 2 years, but it certainly causes us concern if the cost is going to go up. It's already a challenge to keep it funded and to keep people interested. And that is one of the reasons, too, why Ms. Warnica and I wanted to have our own SIM, so that we could, if anything happens to the university SIM, we do have a place that we can take those students to, that we can do experiments, we can give them the tools they need to learn how to do marketing, create business opportunity in a virtual world.
Well, it is actually going to test your marketing classes, isn't it, under these circumstances, I would think. This is kind of a rather exciting challenge in a way, isn't it? What do you think?
Very much so. And in general, having an opportunity like this lets us practice what we preach. And, it's this Second Life does give the kids the opportunity to make real money, real dollars, play with their creativity from the marketing side, do things like packaging and signage, and just so many opportunities that otherwise really wouldn't be there, and particularly for the scale that we need.
Well, really what this does is it shows the students that not only do we know what it is that we're talking about, but we're actually doing it. Like, for instance, yesterday I had a student who knew to contact me, who was from Purdue, is in one of my classes that I teach. And he came over to the hub and he asked me, well, what is this? And I proceeded to explain it to him and show him around. And when I explained to him what it was that we were doing and why we were doing it, he was very impressed. But I think, moreover, that it gives these kids a real good idea of how, if you have an enterprising idea or even something unique, this is an environment in which you can safely test it out. You can make sure that it is something that the public would really go for, and it would sell. And it's a good environment to do that on a very cheap aspect, at least for the beginning, and that we're paying the majority of the large costs for the students. Of course, creating an avatar is free, but if we are able to get the educational SIM tier based off of that 2-year program that they're saying that they'll hang on to, of course, we'd end up having to pay almost 2 years up front, which is a huge cost.
That's massive.
Yeah, but it would definitely be worth it if we are able to prove through doing a project like this that it is a benefit to the kids, that it is something that they can really learn to apply the things that they're learning in their classes by actually doing it.
So tell me, I'm fascinated to know why you chose the subject of Avatar.
Well, we actually did a great deal of marketing research before we decided to do this, and we found that many of the role-play market was already pretty saturated. There's several different kinds of role-play environments here. There's a huge medieval. There's also the vampires. There's I think the vampires even had to add the lichens because they were so saturated. And then, of course, there's Star Wars role play, and there's the gore role play. And what we saw in the Pandoran community in particular was that a lot of places were being developed but didn't have the money or the resources or the marketing and advertising awareness to be able to keep it going. So, of course, they're popping up and they're shutting down, and a lot of the people who are vendors, the people who are marketing in this type of genre, were finding themselves losing money a great deal because places would come up and shut down and they wouldn't get any refunds. So we found that in some of the other research that we started doing, that we looked at some of the role-play sims, particularly the Pandoran role-play sims, and we found that some of them have been able to survive on certain aspects. So what we thought was the best thing we could do is create an informational area, basically an information hub, on all of the Pandoran areas, whether it's a role-play sim only, or if it's a sim that has a market, or if it's just something that someone has designed and they just like to get some traffic there. We can then tell people who are even new to this sort of role-play to get involved, where they can go, how do they get involved, what do they need to know. We thought that if anything, we could unite the Pandoran community and hopefully bring some of the better successes that we've seen in the other role-play communities, the same thing here.
Tie into the link between the ecology message and,
yes.
and our choosing of the horse clans to your Native American heritage and things like that.
Right. Well, what he's referring to is that I am a Native American and I come from the Lenape clan of the northeastern tribes in the United States. My tribes, when I was about 7 years old, I grew up speaking Lakota, but when I was about 7 years old, our tribes were integrated into the Iroquois tribes, which then we were told we had to learn a whole new language and we had to learn Lakota. But then eventually we were also integrated back into the public, and we were told we had to take English names and go to the public schools. We were labeled as stupid. We were labeled as just uneducatable. Many of the people that I knew from when I was very little never made it as far as I have, and right now I'm a doctoral student at Purdue. They never really had the opportunities available to them like I did. So I very much relate to the horse clan of the plains, which was very briefly talked about in the movie Avatar. Right about at the end, when Jake actually starts to get all of the different clans together and they unite the clans to battle the humans, one of the clans that's mentioned is the horse clans of the plains, and I figured in that brief instant, in the very brief showing they had in the movie, they looked very much like the Plains Indians here in the United States, of what they used to live like back in the 1800s. So I identified a lot with that, but on top of that, a lot of the native culture in the movie was very ecologically aware. They were very in touch with their environment. They were able to have, in a sense, a neural link with their environment, which is sort of the same culture that the Native Americans live in. We are very much in touch with our environment. We're always aware of what's going on out in the world. We have a very gentle way about dealing with environmental issues and trying always to do everything very peacefully, very methodically. And in the same way, the Na'vi live very much the same. So we really saw a lot of the experiences that I've been through in life, a lot of the things that I believe in, I identified with a great deal with this movie. And I also knew that if we were going to bring students from Purdue from an intro to business class and teach them how to do the marketing aspect and creating a business and how to make an organization, we figured that even if we did lose the Purdue Island because of cutbacks, we would then have a safe environment that we knew that we could allow the kids to get involved in. It didn't have adult material. Sure, it's mature, but there's really no nudity. And we knew that this was an active market that people could actually buy and sell and make some money at. So the tie-in sort of, I don't know, it just sort of worked.
It was rather synchronous, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
On very, very many levels, it kind of fits. And we also, too, in the university and the U.S. in general, is trying to really promote a more ecological message, a green